Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Command Post. My name is Sharp, and I'm joined by Nightpen
Hello.
and Jack Magnum.
Do it.
And today is episode 3 of our podcast. We have officially launched. This is the first recording after launching our YouTube channel.
Yay.
Let's go.
So, yeah, just a quick little shout out to you guys, and thank you for the support in our first 2 videos that are up currently. We appreciate the feedback and the likes that you guys have dropped, and hope you continue to support us. So today, we're tackling a little bit of a bigger topic. We're wanting to jump into the thing about Disney's Star Wars. Is it good? Is it bad? How do we feel
Right.
about it?
Yeah. Let's find out. This is a divisive one. We're gonna be starting fights. I feel like more fights than the last video.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we kind of
considering we
came
got
in.
one comment on that video, I don't think many people were fighting. Hey man, brand
Yeah,
new
we
channel.
Yeah.
we kind of just came in swinging with these topics.
Oh yeah. Hey man. We gotta just get them out of the way so we can continue forward.
Yeah, and then in a year or two, we can revisit, rewatch these videos, and be like, "Oh my god, our takes were garbage."
I I've never changed my Star Wars takes ever. I'm always correct.
You're literally changing them constantly.
We
Literally not at
literally
all.
changed our tune to the sequel trilogy, at least slightly.
That is true. But I
Yeah,
was
get
correct the
wrecked,
entire
idiot.
way. Oh no.
So, anyways, a little bit of a history is that Disney acquired the Star Wars branding from George Lucas back in 2012, and since then has kind of brought the franchise back where we didn't have very many projects. The Clone Wars being the only real one in recent times from Lucasfilm and George Lucas himself.
Yeah.
But
That's my big thing about the whole thing is that like Star Wars was really dead before Disney acquired Star Wars. Like there wasn't really Star Wars thing. Like there was like books here and there, and if you were super into the EU, like yeah, there was a good amount of stuff. But during that time, like there wasn't that much going on. And even like Clone Wars, yeah, we love it now. Um, but like like most things in Star Wars, most of the fans did not like Clone Wars when it was coming out. So people just kind of wrote it off. So Star Wars was really dead pre, you know, Disney acquisition, pre the start of the sequels.
yeah, and whichever way you feel about Disney right now, you have to at least appreciate that we are getting Star Wars content on a semi consistent basis. Even if I don't
Yeah.
like all this stuff they're making, like, I'm happy it still exists and we're still getting
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I really do enjoy just getting more of the universe that we all know and love. And yeah, I think that is probably the biggest like plus side of Disney acquiring Star Wars. Like Jack said, there wasn't really a lot going on other than the Clone Wars and then books. I mean, George Lucas talked about for years of doing a 7, 8, and 9, but it never happened. And I honestly don't think that like if he still had the Star Wars IP, I don't think they would have happened.
Yeah,
100%.
unfortunately, George, at his age and at his time in his life, like, I feel like he's a little more content with just riding out the money he made back then and, you know, letting Star Wars go.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, but because we know what his vision was for the sequels, and it was for his episode 7, 8, and 9, and it was very Maul centric. It was about Maul coming back and like the Star Wars, underbelly and that kind of thing, which I think he probably made the decision that he wasn't going to do those. That's why he put Maul in the Clone Wars and brought him back there so he could get that itch out of his system and kind of, you know, that was his final signature of like, this is the Clone Wars, this is the last thing. and that's that on that. And if Disney wants to make more, I get to make a butt ton of money selling it to them.
I am not 100% sure here, but I actually feel like I remember an interview of Filoni saying that he was the one that pitched bringing Maul back in Clone Wars.
There is it's a book somewhere, but it kind of goes over George's vision for I can try to find it. George's vision for the sequels.
No, yeah, I know about the sequels, but
Oh.
I think at that point George had kind of given up on that, or at
Mm.
least had it very much on the back burner. And I want to say I saw an interview of Dave Filoni saying that originally he pitched bringing Maul back, and George kind of laughed at him.
I
I could be
see.
wrong. I could be wrong saying that. I could be pulling that out of nowhere, but I want to say that's how that went.
Yeah, I do know that Filoni has tried to get Plo Koon back when he was working with George, and that didn't go well. But I have no idea about Darth Maul.
Yeah, but either way, what we ended up with under Disney is they started off with Star Wars Rebels, which released to very mixed feelings, including myself. I was not interested in Rebels when it came out.
Myself as well. It was hard to get
Yeah,
past the animation change. That was a big thing for me.
yeah. It
Yeah,
took me years before like I actually gave the show a chance.
Yeah.
yeah, which I'm so disappointed that I waited so long, but also kind of happy that I got to binge all 4 seasons at once.
I agree. Being able to binge it and get past early seasons Ezra
Mm.
is is big.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Ezra
did.
with Sabine early on, just
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little weird, but yeah, seeing the character development just like in quick succession, like while binging it, it was really good. And again, like mentioned in the other video, I loved the more, mystical side of the Force, like elements in the show. I think they did a really good job on that.
yeah, I agree. It was super fun to watch Ezra kind of learn more from the natural force than like an institute with the Jedi Council or Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to see a bit of the rebellion, and I loved, just the character relationships in that show as they grew and making their little family out of the Ghost Crew
Yeah.
We love a found family.
until you lose them in a different galaxy, but oh well.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to, George Lucas's vision, like that is something that a lot of people are kind of upset about, that Disney and, a lot of people blame Kathleen Kennedy for not following George Lucas's original vision and changing the sequel trilogy to what it is now. But I think like we do have to like take into account like it was an acquisition, like things might like change. I know that during the acquisition George Lucas specifically requested Kathleen Kennedy to be in charge, so I'm sure that there were you know valid reasons why they decided to go a different route. Like we said before, I do think that they should have like had a cohesive story going into the whole sequel trilogy, but unfortunately, they did not. So I do think there is some accountability in the beginning of the Disney acquisition, that they did make some mistakes, but I don't think that like those early mistakes like should taint the entire story, all the stories that they have had since.
Definitely. And that's yeah, that's the big thing is Kathleen Kennedy is basically like George's appointed, you know, eh, like leader for like the new Star Wars. Like you said, like she was one of the criterias of Disney buying Star Wars is Kathleen Kennedy's in charge. So people who are like, oh, like I'm all about George's vision. Like Kathleen was part of George's vision. And that was a big part of, actually selling Star Wars to Disney. And it's also like she's so supremely talented. I people I feel like people don't give her enough credit. Like I'm scrolling through her IMDb page right now. She is an incredible producer with so many incredible films on her resume. Like I don't know how you could not, you know, support Kathleen Kennedy. She's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of play the other side of some of the things that she's said about fans and to fans has just been kind of vile in some places. I don't really think she's a personality that I care for, but I can't deny the films that she's worked on and the impact she's had in the film industry. And I can't really say that she is the one reason that Star Wars is the way it is. You know, a lot of people probably don't understand what kind of impact she has, and none of us really will because we don't know
Yeah.
how much like she oversees everything. And so yeah, the sequel trilogy, you know, we started off with an entirely different vision from what George Lucas had. But for the entirety of Force Awakens, I was here for it. I was excited to see what they were going to cook up. I was very interested with the plots. I liked where they were going with all the characters. I was very interested in how they would continue into the second movie of the trilogy. I liked Finn. Finn was my favorite character. Kylo Ren was right behind that because he seemed pretty cool at the time. And you know, Ray, Poe, I didn't care as much for, but I didn't need to. I was interested in the overall cast and I wanted to see where it was going. I was very optimistic coming out of The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I think they did have a really good foundation in that first film. Yeah, like we have talked about, like, it was kind of a rehash of episode 4, but it was a good starter, like, movie for the trilogy. Um, but yeah, like I said earlier, I think, like, if they went in with a cohesive story for all 3 movies, the sequel trilogy would have landed much better.
I 100%. And I think that is honestly Disney's biggest pitfall overall after their acquisition of Star Wars is that the sequel trilogy just kind of fumbled. I think everything else is at the very least good, you know? The sequel trilogy, unfortunately, and it is super unfortunate because that is, the main part of the series is, the Skywalker saga, and this is a continuation of it. But that's really, I think, the only like thing that they've like really supremely fumbled to where it's like, yeah, that's kind of not good. Like I think everything else is at the very least good.
Uh I don't know if I would use good for Boba Fett, but definitely watchable and like
Yeah.
I my thing with Star Wars was at the time that they were ramping up really starting to bring Star Wars as a franchise like to the forefront was Marvel was popping off at the time. And they literally just had to copy that formula of setting up individual characters, making a universe, and then you can pretty much copy. I wouldn't complain. Probably some people would. I wouldn't complain about getting a Star Wars Infinity War and Endgame type treatment.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what they are trying to do. I don't know if they're exactly succeeding at that, but I feel like the Mando saga with Mandalorian and Boba Fett and, all those characters kind of coming together in the new Mandalorian and Grogu movie that's coming out. I think that's what they're probably this is my theory is that's what they're kind of trying to do on like a smaller scale. We'll see if it actually plays out, but
Yeah, I like both Marvel and Star Wars. I feel like they're kind of in like a weird situation right now. Like I feel like Disney at the moment in, you know, more than one IP, like they aren't fully understanding what, like, their audience wants as a whole. I do think they have good ideas for storylines, but they're just not landing the right way. Um, and I could say this about the entertainment industry as a whole, but just keeping it to Disney, I like I think they do need to listen to the fans a little bit more, as a whole, not just the vocal minority that you know get very upset when something doesn't something they don't like is released. We should be able to have shows and movies for different subsets of each fandom. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Disney does need to listen to its fans a little bit more, but they also do need to take risks. They need to um they need to find their vibe. They need to find the what works for them and go for it. Cuz right now I feel like ever since The Last Jedi, they've been hesitant.
Yes.
And if something lands, they stick with it and they're too afraid to risk anything else,
Yeah, I feel like
unfortunately.
yeah. I feel like Star Wars is one of those franchises that is big enough to take those risks, but also you can make a Star Wars movie in any genre. And you've mentioned this before, Nightpen, that like you can make Star Wars anything. You can make an adventure series, you can make a war movie, you could make, a slasher, you could make essentially anything, movie or video game or TV series. There is a wide
Absolutely.
enough universe here that there's no limit. I feel like Star Wars really, it kind of bottlenecks itself trying to be so attached to the Skywalker saga and that whole era.
Yeah.
100%.
I feel like,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, they no, I agree. They just kind of they need to branch out, and like that's kind of my thing with Mandalorian was, season 1, even like season 2, like that was a risk for them, like what they were doing there, that hadn't really been done before. Um, even the other like projects uh that were not Skywalker Saga, episode 1 through 9, outside of that, were basically part of the Skywalker Saga, and tied in very heavily. Mando was the first one that really didn't, and, it was incredible. I think that was part of the reason why it was so good, and it got super popular, which well deserved, but they were like, "Oh, we now need to play it safe with this," and it's kind of now been tied back into the Skywalker saga, and it's like, well, no, like I want you to take that risk and sit with it a little bit.
Yeah, I think Mandalorian is a perfect example of doing something that hasn't really been done before with Star Wars and making it work and it paying off really well for them. I kind of like the first two seasons, fantastic. Season three, I still liked it a lot.
Oh,
I just kind of feel
good,
like
yeah.
Mandalorian as a series is kind of either needs to choose to evolve or it needs to go. It's either overstayed its welcome or it needs to adapt with, what they're going for because season 1 and 2 were very much the adventures of Din Djarin and Grogu. And season 3 is like, "Oh hey, we're taking over Mandalore now and Bo-Katan is here and, Mandalorians everywhere." It's like, "Whoa, where are we going here?" I
Yeah.
kind of would have rather Mandalorian ended at season 2, maybe 3, and then they just pick up with a Bo-Katan show or a Mandalore show, like the planet Mandalore as a
Yeah,
show.
I
Yeah. I agree.
I agree. Yeah, handing Grogu off to Luke at the end of season 2 of Mandalore, I think was a perfect way to end that series, and they could have yeah, like you said, picked up with a Bo-Katan show and done that with, I mean, Mando can like come back and like help with stuff, but like it should have been a separate show, and Bo-Katan should have been the main character.
Yeah, I feel like because we did get you know, our guest appearances with characters in season 2, but they didn't overshadow the Mandalorian. Like Din Djarin was still the highlight of the show. Um and I feel like as time went on, these characters we know and love, and like again, we know and love, but I feel like they kind of took some of his space a little bit and just made the show feel different. And I do think not for the better, unfortunately. Like I still love the show. I think overall it's very well done. But yeah, the seasons 1 and 2 are on a different level than the rest of the show as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that really just goes back to them playing it safe. You know, I think it would have been better as a separate show, but they wanted to play it safe and hold on to the Mandalorian IP, and they didn't want to reach too far out of that. Guys, I know what's wrong with Star Wars now, and I'm gonna say it because no one else is.
What's that?
Star Wars is woke. It's too political. That's the issue.
One of the worst takes of all time.
So bad, dude. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Oh man, since the beginning, Star Wars has been political. Like to me, it's one of
Oh,
the highlights of the series.
100%. That's what makes the original trilogy, so good is that it is, compelling political commentary on,
yeah.
America.
With space wizards in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. Every art form and like movies in general have always had, some sort of like political commentary like to it. Like yeah, there's some like just silly funny movies, but there's always inspiration. There's always something behind it. And it's kind of silly. Like seeing people just say like, "Oh, like it's woke now." Like George Lucas literally like did commentary on the Vietnam War and the British and American empires. Like this is not new. Like he's talked about it since he's made the original trilogy. And yeah, like even like everyone loves the prequel trilogy now. Like those were very political. Like I mean, Padme was like up there in the Senate for like all of the movies, like whether she was queen or an actual senator. It is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars is very political, and I don't think there's any different to where it was and where it is now.
I agree. It's always been political. Like you said, yeah, I mean, the original trilogy is very it's about like the Vietnam War, you know? I mean, George Lucas grew up when the Vietnam War was happening, you know? The first movie came out like a month after the Vietnam War ended, you know? And it had been going on for like 20 years. That's like a huge inspiration to it. And it was, social commentary because the rebellion was, you know, Vietnam. He says in an interview himself, he says, you know, when I made the movie, we would call the rebels the Viet Cong and the empire would have been the American Empire. It's always been political. It's always been political commentary. It's about him growing up, during that time. So, yeah, it's always been political. And there's another interview out there where, before the emperor was named, he said, "Oh yeah, yeah, the emperor has a name. His name is Richard Nixon." It's always been political commentary. It's always been political and it's evolved into, other politics that are more, you know, prescient to our society today, but to call it woke and to dismiss, new projects because it's quote unquote woke is the most disingenuous thing I think you can do to any piece of art, period. Full stop. Star Wars or not.
We also just like in the entirety of Star Wars, not just the commentary on our politics, but the in-universe politics have played a major role. And you think they're gonna make in-universe politics that don't align with real life issues?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't I don't see a world where you write a political system into your story and don't pull inspiration from any point in history. Like it might not be so present day, but it's gonna come from somewhere.
Yeah. You write what you know. It's
Yeah.
always been that way.
And it's just a little ridiculous. This whole woke thing as a whole is just very undereducated and very just silly.
Yeah. It's such an easy cop out way to just kind of dismiss. And I'm gonna keep saying, art in general, because I mean that's what Star Wars is. That's what movies and shows and books and comic. It's art, you know. And to just with a wave of a hand dismiss any piece of art. We're specifically talking about Star Wars, so to dismiss Star Wars projects nowadays, just overall as not good because woke is like how can you in good faith, say that and say that you're actually like watching and taking in the content that's being presented to you? I don't think you can.
Media literacy, just as a whole, is at an all-time low across the board, in my opinion. Which I mean, it was probably low before. They just have a way to call themselves out for it. Essentially, if you are looking at
Yeah.
something and just like it's bad because it's woke, like you just don't have an argument here. You don't have an opinion. You just took someone else's opinion, and the easiest way to say it was, "This is woke now."
Yeah, and it's such a nothing word too. It doesn't mean anything. So it's just like it's not even like commentary or criticism because like it just has no meaning and it just means, oh, I don't like this because I was told not to because I was told that I don't like Disney Star. It's just like, all right, just tell me you got your opinion off Twitter and move on.
Yeah, also, let's just say that if A New Hope comes out today, never having seen it before, bro, it is so woke because of Leia. A
Yeah.
strong female character in my movie, hello? Like,
Yeah.
it's just
It's
ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're telling me that this smuggler and, this guy who just broke into this superstation to save her get out of prison, she has to take his gun away and shoot out the vent so they can escape? Like, you're really gonna tell me that
Mary
that wouldn't
Sue
be
much.
yeah, that wouldn't be exactly the talking point? Was that scene right there in the hallway where they save Leia from the prison? 100%. And
Yeah.
get this, 2 movies later, they introduce a black character. Oh no, it's woke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say on the whole woke thing other than what I said earlier cuz it's really silly. Like I just people don't give these shows a chance anymore. They don't fully like sit down and like absorb it like by themselves before like going and seeing others' opinions. Like what if you just shut your phone off or like not looked at your computer for just like 1 hour and give each episode a chance. Like yeah, you might not like every episode. There may be things that like you don't agree with, but why can't you just give it the chance and like see what you do like within the show or movie? You know? I just I feel like people just want to be mad at this point.
Yeah, and it's not to say that you can't dislike these shows and movies. Like, a whole talking point is how Mary Sue Ray is. And to a point, I would absolutely agree. But Luke is pretty much the same. He did have a little
Yeah.
bit more training, and you can say he's Skywalker blood or whatever, but it's the same story being
Yeah.
told.
I,
And
I w- I will say on the Skywalker blood thing is that wasn't really even like a talking point until the prequels came out 20 years later. Like there was no chosen one, storyline until the prequels. So when the original trilogy came out, Luke was 100% a Mary Sue.
yeah, and I'll say I wasn't a fan of Rey's character development. I was a fan of Luke's. Why is that? It's because Star Wars is an old movie. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt with Luke's character. When you come around and you tell the same story again, you're not getting the points for like, oh, well, it's their first time, or oh, it was like very original back in the day, or these tropes are old. And Disney is not a new company, and the writers are not new writers that they're handing this IP to. They don't have the excuse anymore of I wrote bad because I'm new or I'm like inexperienced. No, you should be writing a good story because you should be writing good stories with your paycheck
Yeah.
and your budget.
Do we want to talk about budgets?
Oh
Let's talk
baby.
about budgets.
Oh baby, budgets. Management. I can't stand it, dude. I oh, dude. I don't want to go off the rails here just ranting about this, but the absolute disrespect that some of these executives or whoever's making these decisions here, I wrote down a few of the budgets on our little thing of notes here, just so that we have them for reference point for talking points. It's straight disrespectful. Kenobi has less than half the budget of Andor, and like Andor is a fantastic series, I get that, and it ended up working out for them really well. But Kenobi got less than 100 million. Andor got 250 million for a barely established character. And Kenobi's like a face of the franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite surprising when you pulled up the numbers and he only had 90 million.
90 million is crazy. And even like Ahsoka. Ahsoka, you have, about 100 million, you know. That's like yeah, $10 million, a lot of money. But like that's not too much off. And like Ahsoka is a well-beloved character. And yeah, like you said, like Andor again worked out. Great show. I'm so happy it got that budget because it like they did great things with it. But to have more than double at $250 million for Cassian Andor, who, had one movie and died at the end. Great movie, by the way. But, crazy.
Yeah, and season 2 of Andor has like a little under a $400 million budget, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, insane. And just for reference for you guys, Mandalorian season 1, another unestablished character which worked out pretty well. I can't deny that, but it was $120 million. That's
Yeah.
20
I
million over Ahsoka and 30 million over Kenobi.
I do because I was just thinking about that. I was, looking at these numbers. I do want to know if how much of that, if any, was used to create the volume, because that's kind of what the volume was created for. So like if that money was used to create the volume, I'll give it some pass because that's kind of an investment in the future of Star Wars as a whole. But if not, then it's like, yeah, that's hard to justify giving Mando 120 and Kenobi 90. That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm also just realizing that I wrote the Acolyte got $180. Yeah, Acolyte as a series, it was setting up the New Republic era. So it is going to have a little bit of an inflated budget because you have to make like everything,
Yeah,
or at
and they
least
used a lot of practical sets as well.
yeah. And so that sits at 180 million, which, it's going to be an expensive show from a new era. That's exactly double Kenobi. It
Yeah.
just feels
Yeah.
a little rough.
Yeah. Not saying that Acolyte didn't deserve that budget. We're saying Kenobi deserved so much more.
Yeah, Kenobi really as a show got disrespected. 6 episodes, less than
Oh my
$100 million for their
gosh.
budget. It was set on Tatooine for like half. Well, maybe. I don't know, actually. A lot of desert though.
A lot of desert. That's just
Yeah.
Star
And
Wars in general, though.
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyone for listening, please, more planet, no desert.
Yeah, all those Lucasfilm execs that are listening to our podcast.
Hey, who knows? What? Maybe one day.
dude, our boy out here, our one comment, I'm gonna shout him out, the Brown Eyes of Mandalore. Disney
Yeah.
executive right there. I know it in my heart.
Yeah, he works for Lucasfilm.
Yeah, shout out to you, man, our eighth sub. But yeah, no, I mean, to me, it kind of shows like Kenobi and Ahsoka, they were received okay, but they were benefiting from established characters. And I feel like the budget really doesn't. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I've completely lost the word I was looking for. The budget doesn't justify the character. I feel like they should invest more in characters that are beloved.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
guys,
If they're gonna make shows about a beloved character, they need to throw some money at that. Like I'm sorry, you have to, because if you do it wrong, people are gonna be upset.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like I understand that Star Wars, there's going to be a lot of like CGI and like practical sets, like extra things that you need to do to make it look good. But I feel like, and I'm gonna preface this. I have no idea how much it costs to make a normal television show. But I feel like we're only getting 8 episodes. Like, shouldn't they like put either more money or like how much money does it take to get more episodes for these shows? Because I feel like that's a big issue with a lot of shows right now, not just Star Wars, but in entertainment in general. There's just not enough episodes to get everything, right.
I think part of
Yeah.
that is just milking it for profit. I am not going to give big companies the benefit of the doubt. I feel like, if you can get away with a 6 to 8 episode series, they're going to do that every single time because it costs less and is going to make probably similar or maybe marginally less than making a 12 or so episode series. So I feel like they're just going to cop out and just do your easy content that you can push out more often.
Well, that's the thing. I don't like for the most part, and I honestly can't remember like how often Disney is pushing out like each a lot of these are limited series or only got one season. Mandalorian, I can't remember how often they put out another season for these, but a lot of streaming platforms, they're pushing these seasons out like every 2 years or every so often. It's not on a yearly basis anymore. So they're not really like getting these out quickly. They're taking their time and also giving us less episodes.
Yeah. It's just yeah. It's kind of just shocking to look at. And that's just the shows that get made. That's not even, going into the shows that get canceled for a tax write-off.
Oh my god. The amount of projects that Star Wars has canceled is absolutely insane. Between games, shows, and movies and trilogies and these different writers and directors that they keep bringing up that they're like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna have a series and this guy's gonna have a trilogy and that director is gonna have this and this game
Mhm.
company's gonna make that. None of it has come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they truly they do need to figure themselves out before they start making announcements.
Honestly.
Like, I understand like the occasional project like not, coming through. Like it happens. But there has been multiple projects and multiple games and like honestly not even just with Disney Star Wars like back in the day like if you remember like Bounty Hunter like level 1313 like was supposed to come out like for a game, never did.
Never.
um it's just really disappointing cuz like I like you get excited like to hear these projects, like they have Star Wars Celebration, like they announced them there and like everyone's excited, and they just nothing happens, and it's really disappointing.
The big one for me of recent time is Star Wars Eclipse. Man, that game, like, they hyped it up so much, and I was like, "Okay, okay, cool. Really cool looking Star Wars game." Just crickets.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything since the announcement.
Exactly, and that was years ago.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting on the track of games now. Gaming as a whole medium has its own issues,
Very.
and oh my god, the mismanagement there, especially with like Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah,
EA being the most greedy company I've ever seen. It was what, $10,000 to max out character or max out your inventory or something like that. Or like some 30,000 hours. I want to say, I'm just going off memory. That game
it was
came out a long time
egregious.
ago. It was stupid. And then
Yeah.
the game dies and they don't want to do a Battlefront 3 because Battlefront 2 failed. I
Yeah.
wonder why it failed.
I mean, I haven't been on Reddit in a really long time, but the EA exec had the most downvoted comment over it's supposed to be like a, what was the quote? Like a form of pride and accomplishment to unlock everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, most downvoted comment of all time on Reddit. And like no like I remember being part of the boycott of the game, like unfortunately, until they fixed things and they decided to let it die instead. Like it's a beautiful game. Beautifully done. But if they would have changed some of the monetization things, like it could have been phenomenal. It's honestly probably could have still been going today.
Yeah, I saw online that there was a little bit of a community driven event going on, that people were in droves coming back and populating the Battlefront 2 servers. So I jumped on. I downloaded the game, jumped on, tried it out. It was a fun game. It felt a lot like Battlefield, which I'm a big Battlefield fan, but it felt like Battlefield just Star Wars coded in the best way. The guns felt good, the characters felt good, the heroes felt amazing, they looked cool. Visually, the game is stunning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I saw a video talking about canceled content from that game's dev cycle. Oh my god, some of it was so cool. We were supposed to have a mode that was just a pod racing game mode. And the one that I was really like, oh my god, why couldn't that happen? We were supposed to have a wave defense game mode that was the March on the Jedi Temple. It was Order 66. And you are a
Yeah.
unknown Jedi with a basic force ability. You make a team with your abilities, you make a group, and you survive as long as you can. That is so cool. I would have played that for so
Yeah. That would have
long.
been great.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just, us, being gamers and like, being in this bubble. I feel like Star Wars games, just in general, if they're like made well and like, not greedy EA monetization, if they just make good Star Wars, like I feel like that's just free money. You are just printing like if you give me a good like Star Wars game, especially if you make it online, like because like the Jedi Order or Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, games, those are good games, great story, but it's like it's a single player game. You play them once and like you're kind of done. If you can give me a game where I can come back to, day to day, week to week, that's free money from me. Like I'm there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would pay a subscription for a game like Final Fantasy 14 or World of Warcraft, but just make a Star Wars. Give me Knights of the Old Republic, the Knights of the Old Republic remaster. What happened to that?
Yeah.
It was happening, and then it was canceled, and then it kind of came back, but I don't know if that was an official statement from the company. And then we've heard nothing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is Star Wars The Old Republic, which is the MMO, but it's all right.
These games
I
are
played
just
it.
so dated at this point, and they're not bad games,
No.
but literally just uh an example. the Battlefront 2 remake, the OG Battlefront 2 remake, or Battlefront, what was it, bundle of the
Mhm.
OG Battlefront 1 and 2, just being upscaled to support 4K resolution and bring the online servers back. That was easy money for them. I was so ready to buy that on day one,
Yeah.
but I was just like, I'm going to hold off. And thank God I did, because that game comes out and it had 2 whole servers. So a total of, I think, 64 players or 32 players could play the game online at one time.
Yeah, that
And
is really
I
absurd.
didn't know it was that bad.
yeah, it was really bad on day one. And then the upscaling was flawed, and a lot of the textures didn't work. And to this day, I believe on Steam, I can pull it up real quick, but I think that it's still mostly negative or overwhelmingly negative.
Yeah, it really is just disappointing. Like I feel like like most Star Wars gamers would immediately like every project they announce, all the Star Wars gamers, they get so excited. We're all so excited for the next project. We're all hoping it's going to be the next big thing. We hope that it's going to be great. And then it just I don't know. It just they don't do it. Like yeah, I think the only games that have had like good receptions are the Fallen Order series, But like even Outlaws, like that's the most like recent game, and like there are a lot of issues at launch. Like I really I don't understand. Like I know that there have been multiple studios making these games, but like they should realize like every studio is still making a mistake.
Yeah, and just for reference, the Battlefront Classic Collection on Steam is mostly negative, with recent reviews being mixed, which, still pretty bad. I'm not going to buy that.
Yeah.
And, this might not all be Star Wars' fault, but it is their brand. And it just, when you have something failing so spectacularly in every medium, I'm going to lose a little interest or a little bit of trust with your brand.
Yeah, it's just really, really disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one place that that Star Wars and Disney is doing well as a whole are the books. They I like I feel like the High Republic books are doing a really good job. I think yeah, they've done phases 1 through 3 of the High Republic, and they've had really good reception. I don't think I've heard really any negative things about them. They also like the comic books. I think the written form of Star Wars is doing very well for itself. It's just every other form of media is kind of struggling a little bit.
And
I
that's not to
do
say that it's failing either, because the shows are obviously making money.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I do wonder because, the books and the comics are, uh, not as in the forefront in the limelight and, there's not as many people reading and consuming that media. I do wonder if it was reversed and like the books and the comics were the main thing, if it would be the same and people would have issues, and be like, blah 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 about the books and the comics.
I
And
mean,
yeah, so I don't know.
people already complain about the books. I assume it would just be a louder audience that
Yeah,
complains on that instead.
that's true.
Well,
Yeah, I
this
I am trying to get into the comics, so hopefully I'll have more to touch on in the future on that regard. But yeah, as far as I know, I've heard so many things of like this comic run is, incredible. This is, great Star Wars, for example, the Vader comic, you know, people love that comic. It's great. So yeah, I do want to look into that more and have more information on that.
Yeah, I think as a whole, I think we all are more interested in getting into the books. Like we haven't really
Yeah.
the books and comics, like we haven't really touched on those too much. Like I know me and Jack have read um what's it called?
Dooku?
Yeah, Dooku Jedi Lost, and it was very good. That's an audio drama actually, and it was very well done. I do have to say the audiobooks for Star Wars are very interesting because they do have like music and sound effects, and it's really a production. And any of the audio dramas having multiple voice actors in it, very well done. But yeah, we've read that. Like I've also read Dark Disciple as well as the Padme trilogy, and they're very interesting and very well done. I am excited to look into the rest of the book series.
Yeah, I think Star Wars just there is so much opportunity here, and it is such a beloved franchise with a passionate fan base. They really could do anything, but it feels like they're just afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it in terms of they can do anything, I think the fandom also has some responsibility to take a step back and realize that not everything is going to be made for them. Like, but like back in the day, like people would say like don't yuck someone's yum. But people really do like telling people, "Oh, like that's terrible. Like why do you like that?" Like I like just take a step back. Like what you like. You know, valid criticism and critiques are welcome, but to just bash on somebody because they like something that you don't like, I think that needs to honestly stop.
Cut it out.
Yeah, I think larger people in the Star Wars community, they should really take responsibility and lead as example, but I feel like it's been a little too popular in this space to just bash on Disney and bash on Star Wars because you want clicks.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the inspiration for this channel. I didn't really ever think I was going to start a Star Wars podcast with anyone, but there's so much negativity, and it's honestly hard to find good content creators in the Star Wars space. We have a few that we watch, but for actually talking about Star Wars as a medium rather than Star Wars lore, it is really hard to find content creators because so many of them are small and dwarfed by these people that like to complain about Disney.
They get a paycheck about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really unfortunate. I like again, like it's fine to not like something. It's fine to critique it. Like you like I mean, how many negative things have we talked about in the last hour, you know? But like if someone doesn't agree with us, like that's okay. Like these are our opinions, that's their opinion, and we can move on with our lives, you know?
My big thing, in general, because yeah, we're talking about Disney Star Wars, but at the end of the day, like we're talking about art. And I keep on driving this home, but you know, I think because a lot of, the larger channels and that kind of stuff have, like Star Wars like watch parties where you sit in their live stream and you start your, you know, the show at the same time and you can like watch with them essentially. I would honestly advise against doing that. Watch the show, watch the episode, watch the movie, you know, and sit with it for a moment. Form your opinion, think about what you just watched and absorb it before you go online to Reddit or Twitter or another YouTuber to see what their opinion is. You should know what your opinion is for the most part before you start seeking somebody else's. I mean, Nightpin and I, we every time we watch something, there's like a good like couple seconds as the credits are rolling where we just kind of sit there silently before we like turn to each other and discuss with each other. And then it's after we discuss with each other before we even touch, you know, what the discourse is online. So that's what I would recommend. Form your opinion before seeking somebody else's. Um, and I think in general, you'll be a lot happier.
Yeah, as we're
Yeah.
talking about this, I'm kind of getting an idea that I wish we did with the tier list video. I kind of wish that we went through and made the tier list on our own to show the audience our opinions before we talked with each other about them. I think that would have been pretty fun.
Oh, that would have been, yeah.
Yeah, probably would have been smart. Oh well.
So we'll keep that in mind for next time. But
Next time.
yeah, it's unfortunate that a lot of people just kind of take the opinion of the loudest voice and run with it. You should form your own opinions, and not everyone's going to agree. That's the whole basis of this channel, is that we don't
Exactly.
have to agree. They think the sequels are okay. I think they should be thrown out. Like, you know.
And we're still friends. I mean, we're family, but we're still amicable to each other. We still have a Star Wars podcast. We're not at each
It's
other's
debatable.
throats.
You're getting thrown off next
Hey,
episode.
hey, watch it, bud.
We're going to bring in Flipsy.
Let's do it.
Guest stars.
He did ask. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, maybe
Interesting.
look forward to that later on.
Oh,
But man, this has been a very negative negative hour. We've kind of gone
Yeah.
off here. But
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like negative discourse, but like and yeah, like we do have some concerns like about Disney, but overall, I do enjoy having more Star Wars content and like learning more about the universe.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking back at our tier list that we did, and most of Disney's Star Wars is B and above, and I feel like that just kind of speaks for itself. You know, most of Disney Star Wars is at least good, and that's good. Do I want it to be great, incredible, perfect? Of course. Most of it is at least good, and I think that is good.
I'm also just going to go out there and say that we are getting more Star Wars than ever. Under George Lucas, we had 7 projects. Under Disney, we have 17.
Wow.
Right? Am I 1, 2, 3? Yeah, 17 projects released under Disney.
And more on the way, confirmed.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
in just a few months, we'll be having more. We're looking forward to Andor season 2.
Yeah.
Oh, and Skeleton Crew's not on that list, so 18.
18.
Yeah, that's true.
They're in the process of making the, new Jedi Order movie. That's another one that's, confirmed on the way, like starting production.
Allegedly.
It is
Until it
starting
gets
production.
canceled.
Until it gets canceled for a tax write-off.
Ah,
Yeah.
don't do it to me,
Also,
Disney.
Disney, Lucasfilm, not related to Star Wars. I feel so bad for Willow. Like
Oh my
that
gosh.
was a really sad like situation. They should not have taken that down.
Yeah, that's bad. That's really bad.
Yeah. Media preservation, baby. Woo!
Yeah, bring Willow back.
Yes. Bring Willow back. Bring back physical media. Please. God, please.
I think it should just be easier to archive this stuff in general. We should be able to, if we're paying, maybe make it a different tier in your streaming services. Let us download your stuff,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
which they won't because that's
They'll
how
never
they
do it.
make money. But it is really disappointing. I'm not so technically like in the know to know why they have to remove all these series, but there's some big series and like classic stuff that's just not available widespread because it's not on streaming services anymore.
Yeah,
I
it is
don't
really
get it.
unfortunate.
It's crazy. I think that's exactly why we needed a show like Skeleton Crew.
What do you mean by that? Because I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Where are you going with that one, buddy?
Yar.
Oh, real.
Pirates, we don't even know what that means.
All right, Pirates of the Caribbean podcast next time. We're
No,
switching it
Hondo
up.
Onaka podcast.
Oh, baby.
Yes. Yes.
I'm still hoping for that Tales of Hondo Onaka series. Give it to me.
That'd be hilarious.
I'd love it.
Please.
What a guy.
So, a little bit off the cuff. Question for you guys is, what would be your favorite medium that Star Wars partakes in? Games, animated, TV shows, movies, books? What would you pick if you could only pick one?
Animation. Absolutely. Hands down. I feel like that the animators and storytellers on those shows know what they're doing more often than the live action, unfortunately.
Question. I'm gonna be that guy. I have a clarifying question for your hypothetical.
Okay, buddy. Let's hear it.
Does choosing a medium mean we lose all of the other medium, or does that mean that like if I say, you know, movies, do I lose out on all of the games and the shows, or does that mean all the games and the shows are made into movies?
I would say you lose everything
Dang, okay.
outside of what you choose.
That's crazy. You're crazy.
I would.
I think I have to go with animation then. I was leaning towards games, but I gotta go animation.
Yeah, animation is just a strong. I advocate for. I don't know if I brought this up in the podcast, but I advocate for Disney with the failings of the sequel, or how the sequels trilogy was received. I really feel like they should have taken the time and rebooted Star Wars as a whole and have 1 through 6 be George Lucas's legacy, but then give us an animated reboot series that makes it a more cohesive story where we know where we're going with it and we're leading somewhere, and Luke and Leia don't kiss and stuff like that gets amended.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been a really good opportunity to
that would be interesting, yeah.
get their feet wet and really, tell a cohesive story. Give us something like the early Marvel stuff. But then again, we unfortunately have a large portion of our audience that will not watch animated shows because they think of it for children. And to them, I
Yeah.
say, go watch Akame ga Kill.
Don't do that.
If you say animation is for children, watch that.
If you say animation is for children, my words for you is grow up. Fucking grow up, dude.
Yeah, some of the darkest parts of Star Wars were in animation. We had Umbara, we had Order 66 in more detail. We've had like the Bad Batch's intro. Hey, sorry for the quick cut in. This is editing sharp later on. So, for some reason, beyond this point in the podcast, Nightpen and Jack's mics both started to become really crackly. So, I wanted to add in that this is pretty much the end. We have one more topic we talk about very quickly, just about Inquisitors in the Kenobi show, just mostly joking about them. And then it's just the outro, thanking you guys for the support, and we appreciate the comments and subscriptions we've gotten so far. But the audio quality does drop for the rest of the video, so if you do want to click off, you're more than welcome to. But if you'd like to watch the remaining part of the podcast, I just wanted to let you guys know that something happened with the recording, and so that's the reason why the audio tanks for them too. But anyways, sorry to interrupt your video, and here we go.
Yeah. The animation, they truly do not shy away from death. At least the Clone Wars and Bad Batch. Rebels, a little bit.
Rebels was a little bit more child friendly, but Kanan's sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Chopper's genocidal tendencies.
Just Chopper. That's all you had to say.
I mean, they killed off the Grand Inquisitor too. That was like season 1.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I was more talking about how they mostly, the Ghost Crew use the stun setting all the time.
That is true. Bringing up the Grand Inquisitor did remind me. This is like going way back. Speaking of Disney taking risks, in the Kenobi show, the Inquisitors should have flown with their lightsaber. I'm sorry.
Absolutely not. Leave that in the past.
100% they should have.
Nope. Absolutely not.
It's part of canon. They can do it. Lean into it. Lean into it.
Honestly, that would have been so funny.
It would have been hilarious, but it would have taken me out of the show so fast.
Just
I just
I-
want a deleted scene. Like a deleted scene with one doing that. That
one
would do
time.
wonders.
Just one time. The first time, the Grand Inquisitor shows up, just have him just coming in from the sky, like just real quick, helicopter lightsaber. Just one time. That's all it needed. If they did that, perfect show.
Oh my
That is a
god.
take.
Thank you for watching our podcast, guys. We'll
I don't think we can show our faces in the Star Wars community after that one.
Hey, yes, you
I mean,
did.
hey,
That one.
we just have flown helmets. We're fine.
True. The Star Wars community is used to bad takes, it's fine.
Yeah.
And yeah, this has been an interesting podcast for sure.
Let us know what you think about Japanese Star Wars comments.
Yeah, do we want to say anything more, or do we want to wrap it up for this time?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good too. Okay.
Alrighty.
Keep things positive. We do have some negative things to say, but it's all with love with Star Wars.
It is in the passion of I want this series to be good.
Yes.
And so, to everyone watching, thank you very much for your time, especially if you made it to the end. And let us know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell if you want to see when we upload. And yeah, drop a like. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.